Welcome to another deep dive, you guys. This time we're going all the way back to 1868 with Louisa May Alcott's Little Women.
Such a classic.
It is, but we're going to uncover like the surprising relevance and even humor in this book. I mean, it's been
Yeah.
over 150 years,
Right.
but still feels so current in a lot of ways.
Absolutely.
So we've got excerpts focusing on characters and plot points, and we've even got some of that snappy dialogue, right?
Oh, yeah. The family dynamics are gold.
They are, and we're also going to take a look at passages that highlight the social context of the time. I mean, think about it, 1860s America.
A whole different world.
But you might be thinking, oh, Little Women, a classic. Been there, done that.
Right.
But trust me, there's so much more to it than you might expect.
It's true.
Did you know that Louisa May Alcott, the author, was a feminist and an abolitionist?
I did not know that.
Yeah. Her progressive values, they kind of subtly weave their way into the story and make it surprisingly modern.
It's remarkable how Alcott captures these timeless dilemmas in what we might consider a quaint setting. The March family's financial struggles, the sibling rivalries, social pressures.
Yeah.
These are all things we still grapple with today.
100%.
Totally.
We still grapple with them today.
Just dressed up in different clothes.
Exactly. Like right away, we see the Marsh family struggling with money.
Oh, yeah.
Their dad is away serving as a chaplain during the Civil War,
Right.
and they're constantly having to pinch pennies.
Mm.
Meg is working as a governess. Joe's trying to sell her stories.
Awesome.
They even come up with this adorable plan to make their mom slippers for Christmas instead of buying gifts for themselves. It's heartwarming, but also kind of a reality check
For sure.
for those of us who have ever felt that pressure of making ends meet, especially around the holidays.
Absolutely. And this financial anxiety is so relatable even today.
Yes.
You could practically swap those hand-sewn slippers for a side hustle on Etsy.
Right.
It's basically the same store.
Totally. And then there's Meg, who falls prey to the timeless temptation of keeping up with the Joneses. Remember that disastrous shopping trip where she buys that expensive fabric
Oh, gosh. Yes.
that she can't afford just because her wealthy friend makes it seem like the norm?
Ugh. It's so relatable.
Oh, that scene is so cringeworthy.
I know.
It's like watching someone make a very public online purchase they'll regret later. We've all been there, haven't we?
Oh, totally.
That impulsive buy we can't really afford just to fit in or impress someone.
Mm.
And the consequences for Meg are so real.
Right.
She ends up regretting it big time,
Yeah.
which is a lesson we've probably all learned at some point in our lives.
At some point, yeah.
It's a reminder that true worth isn't found in material possessions, but in the genuine connections and experiences
Oh, yes.
we share with others.
Exactly. And speaking of relatable characters, let's talk about Jo, our ambitious writer.
Yes.
Always hammering away in the attic trying to sell those melodramatic stories.
Let's have her.
She even chops off her gorgeous hair to send money to her dad.
I know. It's incredibly selfless, but also a bit extreme.
It is a little extreme.
It makes you wonder if maybe Jo should explore some other money-making options before resorting to such drastic measures.
Right. Me.
But her dedication to her craft is inspiring,
Oh, for sure.
even if her methods are a bit questionable. It reminds us that the struggle for creative fulfillment, the desire to make a living doing what you love,
Right.
is a story as old as time. I mean, who hasn't dreamed of quitting their day job to pursue their passion,
Oh, yeah.
even if it means living on ramen noodles for a while?
It's a universal yearning, for sure. And Jo's triumphs and frustrations resonate with anyone who's ever tried to make a living doing what they love.
Totally.
She embodies that independent spirit, that relentless pursuit of one's dreams,
Yes.
which is incredibly inspiring, even if it sometimes leads to comical mishaps.
Totally. And speaking of comical mishaps, we can't forget about Laurie,
Oh, boy.
the Lawrence boy as they call him. This wealthy neighbor is basically the 19th century version of a social media influencer, right?
Interesting. I like that comparison.
Privileged, a little mischievous, but with a good heart.
Yeah.
He's always up for a prank, incredibly generous, and surrounded by a bit of romantic tension.
He's an interesting archetype, isn't he? On the surface, he seems to have it all. But even Laurie is searching for something deeper.
Yes.
Genuine connection, perhaps. Or maybe just a break from all the curated perfection that often comes with privilege.
Totally.
It reminds us that even in a world of fancy carriages and balls, or maybe private jets and exclusive parties,
Right.
people are still yearning for the same things. Love, friendship, a
Yeah.
sense of belonging.
Absolutely. And the humor Alcott injects into these characters is priceless.
Oh, it's so good.
Joe's disastrous cooking attempts, Amy's dramatic pronouncements. They
Yes.
crack me up every time.
Me too.
There's this one scene where they're putting on one of Joe's plays in the attic,
Oh, yeah.
and the whole set literally falls apart.
Oh, no.
It's pure chaos.
Oh, my gosh.
And you can't help but laugh at their youthful enthusiasm and the absurdity of the situation.
Yes, the infamous operatic tragedy.
Yes.
What's so brilliant is that Alcott uses these moments of humor to highlight the absurdity of social conventions,
Yes.
the silliness of trying to fit into boxes that don't quite suit us.
Totally.
It's like she's winking at us saying, see, these characters are just as flawed and funny as we are.
Exactly. And it's those moments that make them feel so real, so human, even after all these years.
Right.
They stumble, they make mistakes, they have these grand ambitions, and then trip over their own feet. Just like us.
Like us.
But it's their resilience, their ability to laugh at themselves and keep going, that makes them so endearing.
Totally.
It's a reminder that it's okay to embrace our imperfections, to find humor in the midst of chaos, and to never take ourselves too seriously.
Precisely. And that's just a glimpse into the world of Little Women and its surprising relevance to our lives today.
Yeah.
We've only just begun to scratch the surface of what this book has to offer.
There's so much more.
And as the March sisters grow up, they face some of life's biggest dilemmas: love, marriage, and figuring out what truly matters. It's fascinating to see how their individual personalities shape their choices.
Yes.
And how Alcott navigates these themes with wit and a surprising amount of depth.
It's like watching a reality show unfold,
Yeah.
but with much better writing and no manufactured drama.
Exactly.
So let's start with Meg.
Okay.
She seems to have that whole traditional romantic ideal in her head, falling head over heels for John Brooke Laurie's tutor. I have to admit, I have a soft spot for him.
He does seem like a catch.
He's patient, kind, and genuinely seems smitten with Meg.
He does. He represents a steady and reliable kind of love, which might not be the most exciting,
Right.
but it's certainly endearing.
Totally.
And their story reminds us that sometimes happiness is found in the simple joys of family life.
Yes.
They build a home, raise children, and face those everyday challenges together. It's not always glamorous,
Right.
but there's a beauty in their commitment to each other and the life they've created.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
But even Meg, who seems to follow the most traditional path, has her moments of doubt and temptation. Remember when she gets invited to that fancy party at the Moffat's house
Oh, yes.
and gets caught up in trying to fit in with the wealthy crowd?
Of course.
She even lets her friend dress her up in this ridiculous outfit that's totally out of character for her.
That's right.
It's like watching someone get a makeover on one of those reality shows, except this time it's 1860s style.
A classic case of trying to be someone you're not.
Exactly.
And it's hilarious to watch Meg stumble through that experience. She feels uncomfortable, out of place,
Yeah.
and ultimately realizes that true happiness isn't found in trying to impress others or conform to some arbitrary standard of what's considered fashionable or acceptable.
Right.
It's a reminder that we all have our own unique style, and that authenticity is far more attractive than trying to be someone we're not.
It's like Alcott is giving us permission to embrace our individuality, to be comfortable in our own skin, even if it means standing out from the crowd.
Absolutely.
You have to admire Meg for ultimately choosing a life that aligns with her values, even if it means giving up some of the material comforts she might have had if she'd pursued a more strategic marriage.
Right.
But then there's Joe, who couldn't be more different from Meg when it comes to romance.
Oh, yeah.
Bless her heart. She tries to be a good daughter and follow her mother's advice about finding a suitable husband.
I know.
But it's so clear that marriage just isn't her thing.
It's so clear.
It's like she's allergic to the whole idea.
Jo is definitely ahead of her time.
Right.
She's not interested in settling down or conforming to societal expectations about what a woman should want.
Yes.
She's ambitious, independent, and fiercely determined to make her own way in the world.
I love that about her.
And her declaration that she'd rather be an old maid than marry for anything less than true love is both hilarious and incredibly empowering.
Yes.
It's like she's throwing down the gauntlet, challenging the very notion of marriage as a necessity for women's happiness.
You go, Joe.
Ex-
And she's got this wonderfully dry sense of humor about the whole thing. Remember that scene where she's describing all the eligible bachelors in town?
Oh, yeah?
And comparing them to stale bread and wilted flowers?
Hilarious.
It's like she's creating these comical profiles on a dating app, but with a 19th century twist.
It's brilliant. And it highlights the fact that Jo sees through the superficiality of many courtship rituals. She's looking for a deeper connection, someone who understands and appreciates her for who she is, not for her social standing or her ability to fulfill some predetermined role.
I think a lot of people can relate to that even today.
Oh, for sure.
We all want to be loved for who we truly are, not for who someone thinks we should be.
Absolutely.
But Jo's journey to finding love isn't exactly smooth sailing.
No.
She has her share of awkward encounters, unrequited feelings, and moments where she questions if she's destined to be alone. It's a reminder that even the most independent and strong-willed among us crave connection and belonging.
They do. And Joe's story reminds us that love doesn't always fit into neat little boxes or follow predictable timelines.
Right.
Sometimes it comes when you least expect it in the most unexpected of forms.
So speaking of unexpected love stories, let's talk about Amy, who, let's be honest, often gets a bad rap from readers.
Oh, Amy.
She can be a bit vain and materialistic, especially when she's younger. Always trying to be ladylike and fit in with the popular crowd.
Right.
It's like she's constantly trying to create the perfect Instagrammable life, even though Instagram didn't even exist back then.
It's true. I think it's important to remember that Amy is the youngest of the sisters, still figuring things out.
Yeah.
She's growing up in a world that places a lot of emphasis on appearances and social status, so it's natural for her to be influenced by those values.
Right.
But as she matures, Amy develops a surprising amount of depth and self-awareness.
Okay.
She recognizes her own flaws, works hard to improve herself, and ultimately makes choices that reflect her own pragmatism and ambition,
Okay.
even if those choices might raise a few eyebrows.
Okay. I have to admit, I'm dying to know what happens with Amy Spill the Tea.
Well, Amy ultimately ends up marrying Laurie, but it's not some whirlwind romance or a fairy tale ending.
Okay.
Amy approaches marriage strategically, recognizing the financial and social advantages it can offer.
Wait. So she becomes a gold digger.
Not exactly.
Huh.
It's more nuanced than that. Amy is realistic about the limitations placed on women in her time.
Okay.
She wants a comfortable life, the freedom to pursue her artistic passions,
Yes?
and she sees marriage to Laurie as a way to achieve both.
Wow. That's a pretty bold move for a character in a book written in the 1860s.
Right. It challenges our assumptions about what it means to be a good or feminine woman. Amy doesn't apologize for her desires,
Right.
and she makes a calculated decision that, while perhaps not entirely romantic,
Okay.
ultimately leads to a fulfilling partnership with Laurie.
It's like she's a master strategist, playing the game of life by her own rules. It makes you wonder how much of that pragmatic approach to love and marriage is still present today,
Right.
even if we're not as upfront about it.
It's a fascinating question, isn't it? How much of our choices in love and relationships are influenced by societal expectations, economic realities, and personal ambition?
Yeah.
It's something Alcott seems to be exploring in a subtle yet profound way through Amy's character.
And it makes for a much more interesting story than if Amy had just followed the conventional path of waiting for a charming prince to sweep her off her feet.
Right.
She's a reminder that women can be ambitious, strategic, and in control of their own destinies,
Absolutely.
even within the constraints of their time. And let's not forget about Beth, the quiet, gentle soul of the family.
Beth. She's a fascinating character in her own right. While her sisters are navigating the complexities of love ambition and social expectations,
Yeah.
Beth finds joy in simpler things, music, family, and acts of kindness. She's a reminder that sometimes the quietest souls have the most profound impact on those around them.
It's like she's the heart and soul of the March family, always radiating warmth and compassion, even in the midst of their chaotic lives. Her story reminds us to appreciate the little things, to cherish the moments we have with loved ones,
Right.
and to find beauty in the everyday.
Exactly. And even though Beth's story takes a tragic turn,
Yes.
it's not without its lessons. It reminds us of the fragility of life, the importance of living each day to the fullest,
Yeah.
and the enduring power of love and memory.
It's like she teaches us to embrace vulnerability, to appreciate the preciousness of life, and to find strength in even the most difficult of circumstances. Her story is a reminder that even in the face of loss, love and hope can endure. But now I'm curious, what other hidden gems has Alcott woven into this seemingly simple story?
Yeah.
There's got to be more to uncover.
Right? There's a layer of social commentary subtly woven throughout the story, especially when it comes to gender roles. I mean, these girls were dealing with some serious societal constraints back in the 1860s.
Right.
Yet they still find ways to push those boundaries.
It's almost like they're low-key rebelling against the system,
Right.
but in these clever, subversive ways, like Jo.
Yeah.
She's constantly frustrated by the expectations placed on women. Remember that line? I can't get over my disappointment in not being a boy.
Oh, yeah. It's such a powerful statement, and it speaks to the limitations placed on women during that era. Alcott herself faced similar challenges.
Right.
Longing for the freedom and opportunities afforded to men, she channeled those frustrations into her writing,
Yeah.
creating characters like Joe who dared to dream bigger and defy societal norms.
And it's not just Joe.
Yeah.
Even Meg, who's more traditional,
Right.
has moments where she questions the rules.
Yes.
Think about her experience at the Moffat's ball.
Yeah.
She gets caught up in the whole society girl act, but ultimately realizes it's not fulfilling.
Right.
It's like she tries on this different identity, but it just doesn't fit.
Exactly. She's uncomfortable in those fancy clothes, feels out of place in that superficial environment,
Yeah.
and longs for the simplicity and authenticity of her own home life.
Right. It's like, this is not who I am.
Ex-
It's a reminder that we all go through phases where we try to conform, to please others, to fit into some mold that society has created for us. But eventually we realize that true happiness comes from embracing our own unique selves, quirks and all.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the most powerful messages of Little Women.
Yes.
It encourages us to question societal norms, to challenge gender stereotypes, and to create our own definitions of success and fulfillment.
So what does this all mean for us living in the 21st century? It's easy to dismiss Little Women as a sweet but outdated story.
Right.
But honestly, after this deep dive, I think it's more relevant than ever.
I agree. The struggles these characters face, financial anxiety, societal pressures, the search for identity and purpose,
Right.
they're all still so real for us today. And the humor, the heart, the enduring power of family and friendship.
Yeah.
These are timeless themes that connect us across generations.
It's like Alcott is holding up a mirror to humanity,
Yeah.
showing us that even though times change, the fundamental aspects of the human experience remain the same.
That's a good way to put it.
We're all just trying to find our place in the world, navigate relationships, chase our dreams, and maybe have a little fun along the way.
Precisely. And I think that's the beauty of Little Women. It's a story that continues to speak to us, to challenge us, and to remind us of the enduring power of love, laughter, and the human spirit.
So if the March Sisters were alive today, what do you think they'd be doing? Would Joe be a best-selling novelist with a witty social media presence?
Maybe?
Would Meg be a lifestyle blogger sharing tips for creating a cozy and meaningful home life?
Possibly.
Would Amy be curating art exhibitions or maybe running a successful design business? And would Beth be composing beautiful music that touches the hearts of millions?
I love it.
It's fun to imagine, isn't it?
It is. It's a testament to the enduring power of these characters that we can still see them reflected in the world around us.
Yes.
They've become archetypes representing different facets of the human experience, and their stories continue to inspire and entertain us generation after generation.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into Little Women. It's been a joy to rediscover this classic and uncover its hidden depths. Who knew a book written over 150 years ago could be so relevant, so funny, and so full of life lessons?
It's a testament to Alcott's genius that she created a story that continues to resonate with readers no matter the era.
Right.
And perhaps it's also a reminder that the more things change, the more they stay the same. We're all still searching for love, connection, and our own unique place in the world.
And sometimes all it takes is a good book, a few laughs, and a little bit of reflection to remind us of what truly matters. So go ahead, revisit Little Women with fresh eyes. You might be surprised at what you discover about yourself and the world around you. And until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep those pages turning.